G'day everyone. Our task today is to look at tasks. Maybe that's the last time I'll do that. So when we go to our task list, we have some familiar options. Just like in To Do, we have the Add Task drop-down where we can choose to add a lead task, a project task, or a support task. We can choose whether or not we want to see the archive tasks in the list. And then we have this due date filter. And so we can look at all the tasks that are due this week or that were due last week. And then there's some more handy options here for looking at past tasks. So the fortnight ending in this week. So this is this week and last week. And then the fortnight ending last week is the last week and the week before that. And then we have all of this month and all of last month, all of this quarter, all of last quarter, all of this year, all of last year. And then finally all, where we can just see every task. And then we have a custom date range where if none of those options suit and you want a very specific date range to view the task, if you're looking for one in particular, you can then say choose from the 2nd to the 4th, which there were no tasks in that date range. And then if you want to remove that date filter, you can just click the X and we go back to looking at this week. You can also filter by team member. So if you want to look at a specific team member's tasks, and you can obviously search the tasks using the search filter here. When we were in the To Do app, we added a lead task via the drop-down list. We're now going to add a project task via this drop-down list. And it's very similar to the lead task form. In fact, it's the same form, but we just have a few different options. So instead of asking for what lead it's for, we now ask for what project it's for. So I'm going to make this task for XYZ logo. And then we have to give the task a name. And for this example, I'm going to make a task where we're going to show example of logo on building. So the client wants to see what their logo would look like on the front of their building. So we've taken a photo and we're going to mock it up in Photoshop. That's the task that we're going to do for them. It's a design task, so we'll stick that in design and then I'll work on it. And we don't need any team working on it. Now I'll just cover here what this task type means because we didn't cover this when we were doing the lead task. What this is for is, in this example, show an example of the logo on a building. That is a one-off task. So we would build the Photoshop file and send them the image showing the logo on the building. And then once they accept that and want to go ahead with a big banner or whatever, then we can finish that task and it's done. Now, the ongoing task option is for if you've got tasks that you do regularly and you don't want to create a new task every time you do that same thing. So for example, if you've got Monday morning meetings or Friday afternoon meetings, you don't want to have to create a new meeting every time or a new task for that meeting. What you want to have is one task that people can just keep adding time against. It doesn't have a start date or an end date. As you can see here, those options disappear because it's not one-off, it's always ongoing. So it's basically going on forever and people can just timesheet against it. And we did show an example of that in the timesheet. So if I go here under time and we have a look and I just type in meeting, I have this ongoing task, which is team meetings, which is an internal project and it's of the type meeting. This meet with Jim, that was a one-off. So I was just going to meet with him on a one-off basis, but this one here is an ongoing task that I can keep adding time to. But since this is a one-off task, we're just going to produce this example once. I'm going to choose the one-off option. And now I've got the option to set what the status of this task is. So firstly, I can just set it to get to it at some point, and that means I have no idea when I'm going to work on it, but I know I need to work on it at some point and I don't want to lose it or forget it. So I put it into Simply Business so it's there and I can refer to it later, but I don't know and I haven't scheduled when I'm going to work on it. The next one is need to get cracking, and this is where I have a due date in mind or a day where I know I'm going to work on it, so I need to get started on it. The next one is working on it, and this is often what happens. You create a task and you just start working on it straight away. And when you do that and choose working on it, your timesheet will start recording time automatically. The next option is taking a break, which doesn't make sense to create a new task and then instantly start taking a break. If you haven't started working on it yet, you would put it in need to get cracking, but there's nothing stopping you putting it in taking a break if you need to. You may actually need to start the task and put it straight into need help. So you might have a task you need to work on and you know instantly that you're going to need help straight away. So you could put it into that. And then finally, you can create the task and mark it instantly as having been done. Now, the reason you would do this is if you'd forgotten to create the task or if you'd worked on it inadvertently while you were doing some other ongoing task. So for example, if you've got a task like I do, which is read reply to emails, and in the process of replying to emails, you actually happen to do some real work that could be billed, you could retrospectively go back, create the task, mark it as done, and then add it to your timesheet. So for this example, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mark this task as already being done because I got the request while I was reading my emails to see what the logo would look like in a building. And I just quickly jumped into Photoshop. I created the mock-up. I sent it to them and I realized, actually, I could have billed for that. So I'm going to go in and create this task and mark it as done. Now on the billing, we have the three options that we had against a project, which there's no billing, it's time and materials, or it's a fixed fee. And then in time and materials, there's actually one different option to what we had when we created a project. In projects, we had the option to do the team member rate, the project rate, or the customer rate. So if you choose team member rate, then that's whatever rate the team member is set to be billed out at. If you choose project rate, then the rate will come through from the project, whatever you set. Now that could have been team member rate, it could have been a specific project rate, or it could have been the customer rate. However, we can override all those billing options and choose a specific task rate for this particular task. So even if the project is set to bill at a customer rate, if I don't choose project rate but choose task rate, I can override that with whatever billing rate I want. And in this case, I'll be very generous and do $1 an hour, and it only took me 15 minutes, so I will get a whole 25 cents for this task. And then I can just say it was due today because I've already worked on it. It's actually already finished. And now when I hit done, that task will go into my task list as being done for this week because I'm filtering by this week and I can see that it's done. Now I need to go over to timesheet now and actually record the 15 minutes that I took so that it will be billed. And what I do is just find the task here called example of logo and building. I choose that and I hit start. And we can see here that it starts recording time, but I don't want to wait 15 minutes, obviously. So I'm going to pause this. Now, because this task was already done, but I've paused it in the timesheet, Simply Business has this handy feature where it's going to ask me what I want to do with the task now. Basically, am I pausing it because I'm pausing working and I need to do more, or I'm pausing because I'm finished and I don't need to do any more? But because it was previously marked as done, we need to know what to do with it now. So basically we have two options. One, do I want to mark it back as being done? So move it back from doing to done, or do I want to put it in the paused column? So if I say no, that means marked as paused. If I go across to my to-do list, we'll see that task now in the paused column. Here it is, example of logo on a building. If I start working on this task again, add some more time to it, and then pause, Simply Business won't ask me because it was paused. I started working on it, so it went back in to working on it, and I paused it again, so it's just gone back to paused. But if I go back to the to-do list and I drag that task into done, and I come back to the timesheet and I record more time on it, and then I pause that time, I get asked again, is this going into paused or is this going into done? I say, yes, it's going into done. And now when I check my to-do list, I will see that that task is back in done. Basically what this does is prevent some of your tasks inadvertently ending up in the paused column when they were previously done, but you just happen to add some more time to them. And so if they were done, you can put them back in the done column. Now I can go back to my timesheet now and actually put the 15 minutes against this task, and now I can bill out that 25 cents. Okay, so I'm just going to open up this task again and have a look at some other options we have in the left-hand menu here. And the first one is items. So I can actually add items to this task which are billable. So I can say, let's just imagine that the client wanted me to send them a photo of what this would look like, our little mock-up. So I printed a photo print for an entire $1. And I had to stick it in an envelope. And so we'll put it envelope for, well, and a stamp and everything. So we'll make that $5 for shipping. So we can see we have a $1 photo and $5 envelope, and that's a total of $6. So any items that need to be billed for can be added to this task, and then they'll end up in the billing later on. I can also add any files I want to against the task specifically. Now we have already looked at how you can upload files against a project. So in this example, I could upload the Photoshop file and the final output to the project, or I could upload it specifically to this task. So I can just click and find the file, here it is, and upload that against that task. I can have any discussions I like about this task. So how does that look? And finally, I can see all the time that's been recorded against this task. And I can see here I started at 6:30 a.m. up bright and early, and I recorded that 15 minutes or quarter of an hour against the task. So it's both in minutes and hours. So that's the task list and how I can create tasks for leads, projects, and support tickets directly from there. I'll just jump back to projects and open up XYZ projects and show how we could have done exactly the same thing from the project itself. Had I gone to tasks and hit add task, I could then add the task directly here. With one advantage, I don't have to select the project because I created it from the project. Simpli Business already knows what project it's for, and so that option at the top where I would select the project is hidden because the project is already selected. And of course, if I go to do, I could have also done it from there by clicking add project task, but then I would have to type in XYZ again because Simpli Business needs to know what the project is. So from the project, from to do, or from tasks, you can enter tasks into Simpli Business.